How we can be sure that I beat the record? First of all, that's we have the lion, which is right now in Cairo University, because we must have to do some special test for the lion, for the weight and all this kind of stuff. We'll put something around 180 kilo to till 200 kilogram to be sure that the line is straight, because everything depends of the current, depends of the weight and all this kind of stuff. Then when you are doing depths, someone can start make the line and take the signs. So there is like a kind of sonar and kind of computers show upstairs for the board that the line is moving.
Yeah.
So you must have to be sure the line is one straight and one straight.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned as well, as we were talking, preparing that actually ascending is harder than descending.
Exactly.
So would you tell us more about that?
To go down it's a little bit difficult, but it's not that easy too. But when you're going up, there's some rules you must have to follow, because of the pressures, because of your lungs, because of with the gas, all this kind of stuff. So you must have to stop for example, that's when I start going, I'm going for 22 hours to the surface. There's not for the bottom to go down, because some people thinking that I can go for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes to the bottom, then I can go with the same time to the surface. That's wrong, because I have the pressure in my blood, I have a pressure in my body, the gas actually circle in the blood and all this comes and my lungs too. So I must have to do like safety stop. Like for example, if you are going for the normal dive, you must have to do like safety stop, like all this comes out to get your lungs back to the normal.
Unfortunately, the time of this segment is up, so I have to thank you very much for this interview, but we will be continuing this interview in the next episode.
Thank you.
Now it's time for the Eye of Horus. Today we'll be talking about the art dedicated to the afterlife of the nobleman. Noblemen are the high officials and the relatives of the king, and as well as, of course, the governors. And these, when they died, or even from their moment they have money, they start preparing for their afterlife. They start building their tombs, asking or commissioning artists to do statues for them. In ancient Egypt, the statues by magic substituted for the body. So if the body is lost, the statue will compensate for it, and the spirit or the body can live in it and continue to exist forever. In this room here, this hall, we have a variety of nobleman artifacts. For example, to my right hand side, this is what we call a false door. A false door is a stone doorway placed in the tomb of the deceased, and they thought that by magical spells, which is magical formulae and liturgy, the spirit will use it as a gateway to exit and enter the. Behind me we have several showcases. Each showcase houses a variety of statues for noblemen. Usually the noblemen in their statuary, the men will be always depicted ochre in color because they work, they get exposed to the sun, while the ladies, you find them slightly yellowish in color to indicate finesse, except if they were lady servants. Sometimes some of the lady servants were depicted brown or red ochre as well. And we can see a different or a variety of statues, whether the nobleman and his spirit, or the nobleman with his family, his wife and children, so that he can be united with them in his afterlife. This whole year is dedicated to the nobleman art of the Old Kingdom, around more or less 2600 BC, except for a few masterpieces which belong to kings. Like for example, there is a Greek statue behind me. We call it a triad because there are three figures in one statue. And this is the triad of King Mykirinus, or Menkaura, the owner of the smallest pyramid on the Giza plateau, the third pyramid. And actually, Mykirinus, his pyramid had beside it two temples. In one of these temples, we found several triads for the king with some of the gods of the districts in Egypt. In ancient Egypt, they had 42 districts. Each district had a protective god or goddess. This god, the triad here behind me, the statue here, actually is dedicated to the cult and the districts which worship the goddess of love, joy, and beauty, and the sky, Hathor. Hathor can have many shapes and forms. The form in this statue is a lady with the two horns of the cow and the solar disk or the sun between the horns. Then she's standing on one side of the king to protect him. On the other side we have the emblem of the local district. We have three of these triads here exhibited in the Egyptian Museum. We have several exhibited abroad, and one of them in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Also we think that there might have been 8 of them, but we have also a group of them were destroyed, and it's made out of schist.
Page, Dr. Peter Berlin will talk to us about the latest research in the field of photodynamics.
As part of the third International Conference of Photodynamic and Nanomedicine for Health Sciences, German Professor Peter Berlin released his latest research. Following the conference, we had the following interview with him.
Concentration and reducing
In this segment of Science Page, I'm happy to have with me Dr. Peter Berlin, who will talk to us about photodynamic therapy. Doctor, would you talk to us, please, about the research you discussed today?
We are a clinical-based department, and our research is more clinical, not in the basic, not in the lab. We observe the optimization of clinical application. That means clinical control, evaluation of clinical protocols, and control the results.
Doctor, when we talk about phototherapy, how can that, or actually it's called photodynamic therapy, how do we do that, or what is it?
Your speech was very interesting. Phototherapy and phototherapy are two different aspects. Phototherapy is named that you give a drug, and this drug will be activated, cytotoxic, and causes then tumor or cell death. This is phototherapy. And photodynamic therapy is another aspect. This is the activation of oxygen, and this destroys selectively tissue cells or tumor cells. And this is the photodynamic means it's a slow process. It's not immediately processed. So you need time to observe. You must control, and this is the different to phototherapy.
Doctor, you also, in your research, you discussed the implementation of the photodynamic therapy in the treatment of cancer. So can you give us a bit of a preview into that?
Yes, we are, as a research group, we work together with laboratory research, and our aim is to introduce new technologies, but all the time under the view of the patient, make it sense for the patient, not to collect scientific results. The discrimination, this was one of the questions of the chairman, what is the protocol? And so we work together with other hospitals and look which patients really has success from this kind of treatment.
Since this is a specialized program, so I'd like you to talk to us more about the scientific details of it. For example, on the during your talk, you talked about things like the diagnosis, the treatment, so on and so forth. So now, would you tell us more details about the treatment?
Okay. In my afternoon lecture, I will give more details about our research projects, and the main research is now the combination intraoperative control, and here is optical diagnostic one of the most important tools, because we can control with not only with fluorescence, with optical coherence tomography, with Raman spectroscopy, detect remaining tumor cells in the surrounding tissue, discriminate, and then destroy. So the combination of intraoperative diagnostic therapy, this I think will be the greatest step in the next 10 years. And this is our research group.
Yeah. Again, the method itself, like what do you do? Like, do you expose the patient to certain radiation, or do you inject him with something? How is it done? Please tell me.
In the clinical work, clinical routine, we use both. We give topical application, injection, and what we make in clinical or indication adjusted treatment. This is, we make no clinical studies. We make laboratory studies together with university institutes, but in our clinical work, it is a clinical routine, and so we make a clinical observation. This is the basic. And we try different kind of application. We choose the best for this patient, for this indication, the best kind of application.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor, for this interview.
Thank you very much.
Now it's time for the cultural review. It's time to enjoy together the modern dance performance, Women from Egypt.
Cairo Opera House hosted Women from Egypt performance. It was performed by Fursan al-Sharq Heritage Company, which is affiliated to the Cairo Opera House. It is a fascinating dance experience choreographed and directed by Tariq Hassan. The show concentrates on the life of women from different eras. In the first part of the performance, the curtain rises on scene 1, showing students and their teacher in classroom. When the teacher asks a girl to lead the class, a male student is annoyed and starts protesting. The teacher begins then to explain the greatness of Egyptian women and their status in society, and how essential the role they have played and are still playing, giving examples of famous Egyptian women who have changed history. The idea of the show is to demonstrate that Egyptian women at every stage in history have contributed a great deal to the society and to making Egypt what it is now.
This will come to an end of today's episode of Nile Magazine. Until we meet again, it's goodbye.